Welcome, everyone. We've got a great guest today, Jennifer Fairweather, CHRO for Jefferson County, Colorado. One of the first public sector CHROs we've had on in a long time. And Jennifer comes with a lot of really interesting experience, is especially talking about one of the things we want to talk about today is a 4-hour work week in county and public governments, and then how HR and operations, how she came from another diverse path into HR, and then overall some of the differences we see in HR in public sector that we don't see in the private sector. So welcome to the show, Jennifer.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your path. How did you get into HR and then move up the ranks and get into public HR versus corporate?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So I took definitely an unconventional path. I know sometimes we know people who know what they want to do early in life and they do it. I wasn't one of those. I actually started out in the engineering school and ended up graduating out of the business school and ended up in finance. I liked working with people. I was good with numbers. So I ended up in finance at a mutual fund company. And interestingly enough, because of shifts, I took a leave. This was before family medical leave for
Huh?
maternity leave. When I came back, my role was no longer there. And so I was shifted into doing training. And once I got over there, I was like, I don't want to do this. But then I'm like, I really like this. And I learned about training and I learned about employee development and then I learned about recruiting. And so I worked my way over to HR because I found that I really liked it. And so I shifted from the finance side into the HR side and then went back to school to try to further my education in that arena and get up to speed on things and just kept progressing along in my career path in human resources. But I'm really thankful that I had so much experience managing a team on the operations side and understanding how that feels, because I feel like that's helped me provide good service on the HR side and understand what that's like when you've got all these things up against you and you're just trying to get done what you need to get done and how it might feel interacting with human resources.
It's interesting you had background in finance too. I've interviewed so many CHROs. They all came from, as I mentioned before, operations backgrounds or they knew finance because they could speak the language of business.
And even everything we do, of course, is people centered, but there is a cost to things. It is important to make sure when you're spending money that you're being cognizant of the priorities and the finances of your organization and that you can speak to that because you're trying to advocate for the human side, but you can't do that without the finance side, especially when you're talking about things like compensation and total rewards and all of those things. So I feel like it's not something that I certainly regret, and I'm happy I still have a little bit of understanding of that world for sure.
Yeah. And then what's the difference been in, say, in your career, or what was the jump from, say, private sector HR into public? Or was that, were you in HR before and then switched over?
Yeah, I was in corporate human resources and then moved over to public human resources, and it wasn't something I wanted to do. The opportunity just landed there, and I thought, okay, people are people. So you have a lot of people want to say, oh, it's so different, and it is different, but people are people. I would say the biggest differences, although I feel like our differences have started to minimize over the years, but the biggest differences, I would say there's a lot of longevity in
Mm.
the workforce in public sector. I would say sometimes there are more rules and protections for employees. I would say in the public sector, our focus can be more on wellness and benefits and good retirement plans than maybe always on the corporate side, but that's not 100%. But what I love the most about public sector is that I would say our workforce, you don't have to worry about people being there for the right reason.
Mm.
Come to an organization because they have a passion for the community. They have a passion for public service, whether it's parks or law enforcement or all of the different roles that we have. And so that's an amazing piece that you find when you make that shift.
Yeah, that's interesting. I would gather you still have turnover, but probably not to the same level as private. And you don't have the external, I guess you just have different external factors that come into
Yeah,
play quite a bit.
turnover is a little bit lower and it can fluctuate. We still do have a lot of jobs that compete with the corporate sector. When you think about, we have IT, we have finance, we have human resources, we have accounting, we have lawyers. We do have to be cognizant of our environment and how things that shift outside can impact our turnover. But Generally, it can be a little bit less, especially when you think about certain sectors like call centers and retail and some of those environments. I know that turnover is actually part of the business model because of how the hiring goes. And we have a little bit of that, of course, in some of our roles.
Do you have to well, I gather you have a recruiting team, but it must be interesting, even like the seasonality of roles, parks and rec in summer and things and I see you light up because it probably is about to start right now too, right?
Yeah, so of course, we've got a parks department, and Jefferson County has an amazing park system. And we have people who have seasonal jobs there, but we do a lot with the youth and to help work in our trails and things like that. It gives them experience, but it's also a nice way to get work done and expose people to that environment and that occupation. We have election workers that are seasonal. We have road and bridge and some seasonal things for facilities. So yeah, we certainly have seasonal type jobs that come about for sure in our environment.
So where's Golden in, for people who don't know the Denver area in Colorado, where's Golden in and what cities are part of your
Yeah.
county?
Yeah, so Jefferson County is the county to the west of Denver. So a lot of Jefferson County is part of the greater Denver metropolitan area. So we're part of that. But some of the major cities in Jefferson County include Golden, which is where our county is based. We have Lakewood, we have Edgewater, parts of Westminster. And then when you get outside the metro area and start going into the foothills, you have some of our areas that are less part of the metro area. As you get into the foothills, you're going to have an evergreen and conifer and Genesee. And our county goes all the way from like Broomfield to parts of Littleton are part of our county.
Uh-huh.
And you go from Denver all the way up into the foothills. So it's a really diverse landscape as far as the different communities that are housed in the county, which also makes it a really wonderful place when you think about the services we provide.
Wow, yeah, because you guys go up to almost all the way up to Boulder in
Yeah.
that area,
Down
far south.
down the south and then towards Denver to the east and then towards the west just before you get into more of the mountains, so
Yeah, so you have both metro and counties, like real
yes.
county out there, huh?
Yes.
And how is that from a management standpoint too? Because you've got, unlike corporates, you have usually you've got a department and they're in this a building over here, but you've got people remote in some far out places.
Yes, you've got a south shop, we've got our central hub in Golden, we've got shops in Conifer and Evergreen, we've got our airport, which is close to Broomfield to the north, we've got libraries everywhere. So yes, there's a diversity in that, and then we also have a hybrid workforce. We have employees working around generally Colorado, but mostly the metro area, because some of our employees have a job and a role where they can do parts of their job from their home. So we
Yeah.
have people really dispersed everywhere. So it does require, intentionality in how we get people to connect and come together for certain things and ensuring that our leaders have good communication and ways that they are keeping in touch with their employees and that employees can get what they need.
All right, so this is leads to my next question. Tell me about the 4-day work week
Yes.
and the success that you guys have had. But I want you to hear the story about 4-day work weeks in government employees.
I think before we made that transition, we already had a bit of a foundation around flexibility. Work life integration is big in our culture, and we're an award winning county as far as our wellness initiatives. And so we're really proud of that. It's one of the things that people come to work to Jefferson County for. So before that, we had a lot of flexible schedules, some part time, the flex schedule where people might have a day off every other week and work nines and eights. So we already had that. And then we started talking about how could we make a 4-day business week work as well to integrate into our county, giving employees an opportunity to have a schedule that might give them more time, which employees expressed interest in, but also would it help save? Would it help be more sustainability? Meaning there are certain buildings we could close on
Mm.
Friday, no lights, less heat, less AC, less paper usage, all those things. And the pandemic happened. We had already been talking about it. And of course, as many organizations, we ended up closing for a little bit during the pandemic. And during that time, we also shifted a lot of our services to having more kiosks, more things that were available to our community on the web so people could still connect with us, doing scheduling for things so that people weren't coming in and waiting in line, but they could get an appointment. So, really managing those expectations. And because we had already studied our foot traffic, we had done surveys with our community, we had done surveys with employees and our leaders and our elected officials, even before the pandemic, when we reopened under the 4-day, we call it a 4-day business week model, where many of our buildings are closed on Fridays. And because flexibility has always been part of our culture, we knew that it couldn't always be the same for everybody. So many of our departments are closed on Friday, meaning their offices are closed. But in some of those departments, because we do have hybrid employees, for some employees, working 410s doesn't work, or there's
Mhm.
cleanup work that needs to happen. Some employees who might work 4 9s and they work 4 hours from home on Friday morning. We also, of course, we have a coroner, we have a sheriff's department, we have libraries, we have park rangers. So this schedule doesn't necessarily mean all of those entities are closed on Fridays. There's
Uh-huh.
still work that needs to be done. We still have courts that run on Fridays, but those groups have, within their operations figured out how they can maximize flexibility as well, even as if it isn't following that 4-day business week of being closed on Friday. And
Yeah.
what we hear from our employees is they really appreciate the 4-day business model. Our community is able to make appointments that Monday through Thursday and manage their expectations for wait times and for internal services. We still provide service on Friday as we always did. Sometimes things happen
Payroll
on
still gotta
Saturday.
get run.
Sometimes even on Saturdays and Sundays, things happen. We have 24-hour operations, and sometimes people might need to get a hold of someone in HR. So it's the same thing. When things come up, there's availability. And so I think by leaning on that flexibility, we've been able to make it work. And I think around the county, people understand, yeah, my job might not lean into that, but this is how we're working around it in my particular role or in my particular office to
Mhm.
provide as much flexibility within the constraints of how we do our work, because our work is a little bit different than maybe someone who works in IT.
Yeah.
Same with hybrid. Everyone can't work a hybrid work schedule. You're a park ranger. You can't work remotely. But we always try to maximize the most we can do for the different roles we have and try to bring that understanding together of how it helps us staff all the different roles and keep a competitive edge when we're trying to recruit and retain the best employees. That's really our goal.
That's that so many interesting things come up, and I could go on for hours about this because number one, I lived in Aspen, Colorado, and I love Colorado. So just understanding that Colorado's got its own culture. It's totally different than
Sure.
California, which is different than Florida and New York. And so, I, with when you're the president of the PSHRA, have other public entities like asked you about this? I'm sure it's been
Yes.
topics of interest in some
I
cultures can
talked
pull it off.
about it in a lot of different workshops and conferences, especially with public sector individuals. It has come up for sure.
Yeah. I think it's really neat, and there's always the pushback about any kind of change, but I think it's the culture in Colorado, the actual citizens are of the same nature too. So they're citizens as in the workforce. So I think
Yeah.
it's a very unique place that allowed it to happen too.
I think we're one of the few in Colorado, although some are exploring it. And I think what helped us is that we already had somewhat of a flexible approach to this around the county. We didn't have a one size fits all.
Yeah.
And when we went to hybrid work, we didn't have a one size fits all. Human services has a very different hybrid schedule that needs to be structured because of the
Yeah.
customers versus HR. We can do it differently. So we always had a little bit more flexibility. And I think that made it easier for us. And you're right, in Colorado, but also Jefferson County in particular, people really do appreciate that work life integration, that understanding that how someone, if they could have more time off and expand that weekend, how they can get things done with their kids, how they can actually enjoy the parks and the place that we live and be a part of their community and feel like they get enough rest and recovery to come back to work and really serve the community in a way that's meaningful and takes care of the people who live here.
I think there's been an advertisement for the county. That's
It's a
great.
wonder it's a wonderful place to live, it's a wonderful place to work, and even if you don't live or work in the county, it's a wonderful place to visit.
So what's coming up? What are the next big changes? I'll ask a question about AI. Are your employees worried about it rather than what are your employees saying and how is it affecting the work culture there now?
We just had one of our employee town halls last week, And our IT department was talking about their team. They have an innovation team that takes ideas and tries to make them happen. And it was interesting that when they talk about AI, employees are actually excited. They are interested in AI and how it can make their job easier. I think in the county and in many public sector environments, we have more work than people. We're not,
Mhm.
I can't think of any government entity that I'm aware of, especially local
It's
government,
overstaffed.
that's overstaffed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Work just keeps coming, or there's a new mandate, a new law, a new way to do something. So you're always trying to catch up. And what I mostly hear from employees is an interest in, okay, how can AI help us do this quicker or better, or make sure we're not making errors? How can we use it? And our CIO was talking this morning about we had a flood of ideas coming in. So definitely employees are interested.
Great.
Um, I do think in some ways there are pockets probably of people in occupations like wondering, will this replace my job? And from the HR aspect, we've already made some shifts in automating many things through our systems that we use, even in HR. A lot of things are automated. What I've noticed is over the years, and what I talk to people about is it's not it's shifted how people work versus just replacing things. So where a lot of emphasis might have been on paperwork or data entry or scanning, we don't need focus on that. What we need are humans to interact with other humans and to solve problems and to be able to answer those things that are in the gray area. And so our
Mhm.
focus is helping ensure we are training people to be good leaders. We're training people to be problem solvers. We're training people to be change agents and help other people because I think the work is there. I just think it will be different. And for
Mhm.
some people that it might be a bit of a different skill in how they go about their job. And for many employees, they're excited to see how it might make things easier for them and for the people we serve.
Yeah, it's really that's an interesting standpoint too, because and using the word change agent, which is so right now, just as almost you're like, is that some sort of trigger? Because we're talking about agents and this, that, and the other. But
Exactly.
I'm glad to hear that from the employee side, it's a tool they're interested in because I think AI got a lot of bad rap early on. Like my kids were in high school and, oh, you're not supposed to use AI and you're cheating if you use AI. And the rest of the world, their schools are adopting it rapidly.
Yeah.
And so I think our workforce automatically assumed if you're using it, it's bad news. And then it's going to take our jobs. And so, no, some jobs are going to change. We know that. But others, it's gotta be more strategic and maybe more change agents and things like that, but it'll be
Yeah,
interesting to see how that training changes and skill sets go.
yeah, I certainly hope so. I think there are tasks we all hate to do. And so I think people are very interested in can somebody else do this so I can focus on the important things and the things that bring value.
Oh, yeah. I'm working on taxes right now and trying to figure out
Oh,
debits and credits. Thank
yes,
God for
that's one
Claude.
of those things. Could AI really just finish this off for me so I don't have to do anything?
Yeah, can I just upload the entire thing
Upload
and
everything and
that's great. And what's the next things that you guys have and do you guys have, like, mission statements and challenges that you're working on for this next year?
we're really focusing on let me back up. A couple of years ago, in direct relation to the county strategic plan, which included being an employer of choice, we did an initiative where we did surveys and focus groups with our employees to identify what does that mean to you? Our employees gave us some information and they gave us like 200 ideas
Yeah.
that they feel would move us in that direction. And so we've been continuing to move through those ideas and track them and implement them. So we're going to continue doing some of those, some of our tweaks and enhancements to things like our leave and our benefits and our retirement programs, some training ideas. They had ideas across every aspect. And so we're continuing to implement that. Another big thing for us is really looking at our talent and our strategy around that from onboarding through the employee life cycle. And really,
Mhm.
we want to focus on better tools for our leaders around the status of their workforce. Like, what are people interested in for their career development? What's their background? Do
Mm.
they want to move to something else? Do they have a career plan with us? Because what's wonderful about local government is
Yep.
you can pretty much do everything. Today you're in accounting. Do you desire to be in IT? Do you desire to be a park ranger? How do we keep employees and move them even if it's up or it could be sideways? So we really want to get a better handle on that and then ensure that the development we're providing in our training team is in line with what our workforce needs to get where they want to go in the organization. So that's probably our big lift. That's going to take a while, but we're also slowly trying to work through that.
Yeah, the current skills in talent management and the whole LDS thing is on its head at the moment with
Yeah.
AI and things. So it'll be interesting how those roll out for you. Yeah.
And hopefully the technology can just help us do a better job of getting a handle on it because in the past we have a tool, we just got to implement it. But in the past, it's felt like you have so much data. How do
Mhm.
you make sense of it to tell a leader this is where you should focus or these are the things your employees are looking for?
Thank you so much. I can't wait to get the feedback from people, especially here from other public entities on this, because I just think it's also great for corporate HR to actually see HR and public sector isn't this bad area. And look at Jennifer smile, right? There's a positive side in HR in public sector as well. So thank you so much, Jennifer. And we'll put your contact info down there for LinkedIn if anyone wants to reach out for you. Thanks again.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks for spending your time here with GoHire Talks and listening to our guests. My intention has always been to create incredible content to help you in your career in recruiting, marketing, business, and leadership. We appreciate all of the insights and feedback you provide. If you've got guests you'd like us to have on the show, please let us know. Again, thank you for all your support.